We're down to just a couple of shows left in the G1 Climax 35 tournament, and 16 of the 20 wrestlers in this thing are still alive. But we're not going to have that going on for much longer because there's a show tomorrow that's going to eliminate some people. Then we move on to the block finals. So, Jeremy, we're coming down to it. We're going to analyze what's happened this last week, look ahead to these last shows and see who's getting into the playoffs, which will be up and running again before our next show. So, a lot to get into. G1 Climax, plus a little Tetsuya Naito thrown in there too. With Jeremy Finestone, I'm Steven Conway. This is Speaking of Strong Style. Welcome, everyone, to Speaking of Strong Style, where we discuss the news, issues, and events surrounding New Japan Pro Wrestling. And it's a pretty simple week to deal with here, Jeremy. This has been G1, nothing but G1 as far as New Japan is concerned. It's been relatively quiet on that front, other than the tournament, which has been delivering some pretty good matches. And how are you feeling? I had my week off. I visited my family. I'm glad to be back with everybody here. So I appreciate you doing the show by yourself. I listened to it. You did a fabulous job. I had to make sure I was back this week. I'm going to get canned.
Your seat's warm, buddy. Your seat's warm. I've actually had a hell of a week. About 2 weeks ago, my wife went in to, check out some back pain. And long story short, Tuesday, she had back surgery. And
oh my God.
So she's on the mend. And my entire week has been like just trying to keep up on the G1. Thankfully, all the prediction stuff, everything was in there. It's just a matter of like analysis and all that. But man, like it's a 30-day outpatient procedure for this herniated disc that she had that turned out to actually be bone fracture. So she actually had a broken back for some period of time.
Good Lord.
Ladies and gentlemen, never underestimate the pain threshold of a woman or minimize it in any way, shape, or form. Because the amount of pain that they can take is unreal. So I've been spending a lot of my week just making sure that she's not doing anything she shouldn't be doing because she just wants to get right back to it. And I'm just like, nope, slow your roll. And while she's been sleeping, I've been watching the G1. I watched the G1 on Tuesday in a hospital, watching the matches, but it kept me distracted. So thanks, guys.
Well, best wishes to her. I hope she has a full recovery and she's back going 100% here soon.
I'll send her all the well wishes that anyone sent her way because she deserves all the love, guys. She's the best.
Well, indeed. And so this week for me, I managed to keep up, even though I was on vacation right there. I did watch a lot of stuff in hotel rooms and sometimes in airport lounges as well. Airport lounges. Sometimes there in the seats by the Starbucks or wherever else I can get to. I did manage to keep track of everything, and I kept my notebook. I've gone through an entire notebook here, college ruled notebook since Wrestle Kingdom. So I have been making a lot of notes, but I filled this whole thing. This is another one that's going to go in the pile. I just finished it on the show today. So I've been making all my notes. I've had my pens with me and everything else. So I am current on things. The one thing on New Japan, the one thing I am struggling to keep up with is also the 5-star Grand Prix. And I haven't even gotten to the Dream Star Grand Prix from Marigold yet. All that stuff is still to come, but I will. I'm working my way towards it. I've gotten a few shows into 5-star, but there's been a whole flurry of activity in wrestling lately, and I'm just trying to tread water a little bit. But G1 is always my first priority. Because,
what's kind of funny about this time of year too is like I watch the SummerSlam, I do the AEW recaps for the pay-per-views and all that. I am so burnt out on American wrestling right now. Like after SummerSlam, which they had that unbelievable main event with Cena and Cody, they had what happened afterwards, and I'm like, I'm not even bothering with Raw. Like I'm just so tired of this right now. Like I'm gonna take my break and I'm gonna come back. But like New Japan is so consistent, right? Like there's none of that crap. You just come in, you watch your really good wrestling, you get to talk about it, and you just kind of like bring in the good luck at the back, And so I'm not burnt out on Japanese wrestling. I'm burnt out on American wrestling right now. And like bouncing off of Dynamite last night, hearing it's a great show and just not granted, exhaustion and everything else going on in my life right now. But it's not hitting the way that New Japan is. You know what I mean? Like these matches, at least 2 a night, at least 2 a show are just like, hot damn, that gave me the giddy up, didn't it?
Yeah, and we had a sneaky one slip in on us too that we're going to talk about today. That I figured would be good, but I didn't realize it was going to be as good as it was. But we're going to get into all that. We're going to break it. We're going to start with the A block, and then we're going to go through the A block. So instead of bouncing back and forth from A to B, because they alternate shows in real chronology, we're going to do the A block and go through the 3 shows from the A block this past week. Then we will go through the 2 shows from the B block this past week. And that way there's a little continuity in there. But we're going to cover everything that's happened since the last program, since Jeremy was last with you. I want to say hello to some folks here. Colin is with us. Brad, we're glad to see both of you guys. Fernando Zayas is here, and he's asking, what's my favorite G1 match so far? Shingo versus Takeshita knocked it out of the park, but there was
a winner.
Another contender not too long ago we're going to talk about here. Yeah, Jeremy, glad Jeremy's with us. Maria is here. So we've got the group. I'm happy to be back with everybody. I missed everyone last week. So, yeah, let's go right into this. So let's start with A block action here. You know what? And yeah, Jeremy, Eric, Colin is telling me the Dream Star has been great. I'm sure it is, and I will watch it. It's just I'm watching so much wrestling right now, Japanese stuff. The 5-star Grand Prix has been darn good as well. There's been some terrific matches in that. So I'm just trying to keep up. And after a week where Jeremy, I walked 42 miles in 6 days over the course of that trip. So I've did you have a watch calculating it, or you just?
Yeah,
I had my pedometer going. Yeah, one day I had 27,000 steps.
So I have my Apple Watch on me at all times, and at my work, I end up doing like 13,000 steps a day, and I'm just like, man. But I never feel like I walk that much. You know what I mean? Like it's like that super weird. Never quite can't put my finger on it.
So anyway, I collapsed and just watched a lot of wrestling. I caught up a lot of that because I was so exhausted when I got back home. It began, though, this week with a show at Kagawa at Sun Messe on August 1st. The attendance for this one, 1,244, which is in line with what Kagawa did last year, about 1,200 last year also, but down from 1,600 in 2023. Still seeing some rough attendance, although this week a little bit better in a couple of cases, and then one disaster that we'll talk about when we get to it, because I've been thinking about it, and I have a couple of theories. But at August 1st in Kagawa, this was the A block. And on this one, we had Callum Newman versus Sonata, let it all off. And Callum Newman beat Sonata with the Princess Curse Brainbuster. And that put Newman at 3-3 for the tournament. So already doing a lot better than he did last year. Sonata tried to use the guitar, but he was thwarted. There wasn't any interference, but they were going to make up for that with the next match, which had all the interference. And Sonata was beaten there and stuck on 4 points. Am I out?
Your video went to
my video went out.
Lady Wrestling X's avatar, which I find adorable.
Let me click on the camera thing here. Yeah, I got Kila's avatar going here.
Yeah, you can switch that up if you want to, but there you go.
I'm back. Sorry about that. Trained professionals here,
you were
folks.
Beautiful there for a minute. That beautiful graphic design is my.
Well, Kila's a lot better looking than I am. There's no question about that. So yeah. All right. So where were we now? We were talking about that. Now I mentioned that there wasn't a whole lot of interference in that Newman Sonata match, and like a lot of matches, so we don't have time to get too deep into things. But Evil then defeated Ryohei Oiwa in the next one, and that made up with all the interference you'd ever want.
A cavalcade of crap.
Yes, it was. Hartley Jackson came out to help Oiwa, which was nice to see. At least somebody got a little bit of a hand there. He helped out with Brad Luck Fale, but Dick Togo still poking around through powder. That match was just okay. But it was a pattern for the A block that they kept everyone very close. No one gets way out ahead. No one falls too far behind without really any exceptions at that point. At
one point there was like a 5-way tie at 8 and a 5-way tie at 6. You're like, oh, okay.
yeah. And and then David Finlay defeated Bolton Oleg. Now at that point, Finlay went into that match, Jeremy, 1-4. And absolutely on the brink of this thing. Had a terrible tournament thus far. Bolton took most of that match. Finlay just didn't seem to have an answer for anything Bolton was doing, but he kept escaping the kamikaze. And then he got a very babyface style flash pin. And certainly Bolton was not working heel or anything like that. But the kind of pin Finlay got and his celebration afterwards was 100% babyface. And that is the beginning of David Finlay going on a tear in this tournament. But at the time, only 1-4 for the leader of the War Dogs.
So, like, the War Dogs are now baby faces, right?
Oh,
like,
sure, yeah. Not
like,
even close.
there's no ambiguity to this. The feud with Evil turned him fully. Like, just I want to establish that as we have conversations moving forward. That we're not like constantly revisiting. Oh yeah, and just don't forget that David Finlay's not a heel anymore. Like, you're watching this dude like be the underdog, persevere, like the most Finn juice he could be in a lot of these ways without actually being the Finlay from Finn juice. You know, like he's channeling the energy that he had to do to like come up from behind, but now he has an arsenal of power moves that make the character a lot more fun, if that makes any sense.
Brad has a comment here that correct me up. He says, I've had to cut out watching the undercard matches to keep up, and I hate doing that. I understand, though. He says, keeping up with this, AEW, Stardom, TJPW, and Sendai Girls is a lot. And as I read that, I realize how far behind I am on Sendai Girls and TJPW, and I just want to curl up under the desk and cry. Because I realize I have to catch up with them, too. and let alone Noah. Good Lord. I don't even want to. Yeah. Whew. Anyway, that Wrestle Universe subscription is going to get a workout here very, very soon. But yeah, but I understand what you're talking about, Brad. I'm at the point where I am hitting the 10-second skip during entrances and exits from the ring just to try to keep things moving along.
You're doing the Fontaine.
A little bit. I got it. I can't just sit there through all. I have to move things along in order to get all this stuff in. So, and Colin, I promise I'm going to watch Dreamstar Grand Prix. I'm going to get to it. I am going to get.
I wonder if he appreciates me calling it the Fontaine.
He probably does. I know what you're talking about, though. But Brad mentioned Sonata has had a strange tournament. He's actually putting on good performances, but then he gets the House of Torture crap from time to time.
He's committed to being a good wrestler. He's limited in what he can do, and he's basically a better heel Toru Yano than Toru Yano is right now.
All right, so we have Finlay beginning his rush to the top after being pushed to the very brink, and then he begins to his surge. Now, not the main event. Excuse me. After that,
remember, was this where like Geto was yelling at him like, "Don't lose"? He's warning him basically, and this is going to be important because Finlay's not winning this tournament, and when he does lose, Geto's not going to be happy.
Taichi faced Yota Tsuji after that. Now, Tsuji was sitting at 4-1, the opposite of David Finlay. So he needed to be pulled back to the pack a little bit. And this one was a great strong style match. One of my favorite ones of the tournament, really. There were a couple that were better. But the crowd was pretty evenly split on this. And the finishing big move sequence with Tsuji and Taichi was excellent. Taichi ended up hitting Black Mephisto to win. And Taichi said something in the comments that he wants to be an obstacle for the young guys. And in this tournament, he's been beating him. He's gotten a key win on him, Uemura, Tsuji. And he said he wants to do it in a way to make them reach higher. Not that he wants to keep them down, but he wants to be a difficult obstacle for them to surmount, is kind of the way he put it. So it's not like, I don't want these guys. It's not a matter of Taichi not wanting the guys to rise to the top, but he wants to make it as much of a challenge as possible when they do. And it's a very babyface way of handling that.
It's like what Nagata's doing with like Oleg Bolton and all, and like Goto. Like, I want to challenge you because I want to make sure like you're the best, like.
And once you do, I will be rooting you on. Like once
I am in your corner. Yeah.
Yeah. I will be proud of you for accomplishing this.
Get past me. And once you get past me, I will always be behind you.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very babyface way of doing things.
Yeah, no, it's they don't have guys like that anymore. Like Naito, we'll get to Naito later, but Naito's gone. Like Tanahashi's like wrapping this up. Like there's no Okada. Ishii is, there's tagged with Taichi, but he's spending a lot of time in AEW. They're just, like there aren't old guard baby faces. From the 5, 6, 7 years ago that they can put in that position that can really harden, like forge iron in iron kind of thing with these young guys.
The main event was Yuya Uemura versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. And Tana worked on Yuya's knee, and to the point that Yuya actually hit the deadbolt suplex, but couldn't bridge earlier in the match. Tana ended up missing the high fly flow. Yuya, who's been doing the high fly flow in some preview tag matches, hit the high fly flow himself on Tanahashi, but only for a 2 count. Doesn't quite get the impact apparently that Tana does. But it was good as they struggled to hit the big moves. And Tanahashi wrestled like he knew this match was important. And of course, it was the main event because, people are seeing Tanahashi in some of these towns, probably for the final time, or at least scheduled to be the final time. Again, I'm always skeptical when it comes to wrestling retirements. But in the end, Uemura did hit the deadbolt to get the big win. This was the get back for the Dominion roll-up loss. And again, it keeps everybody close because when this show ended, the Tsuji and Uemura and Evil were on 8 points. Finlay, Tanahashi, and Sonata were on 4, and everybody else at 6. So pretty even block. No one was more than 2 matches ahead of anybody else.
This was one of those, when you look at the match, when the whole tournament started, and you knew that these 2 guys had the match at Dominion and Tanahashi won, you're like, well, we know who's winning that one if you were canny and paying attention to anything at all. And honestly, Tanahashi really exceeded my expectations in this tournament. If Eve had limitations, they actually play it into the matches rather than trying to hide it. They're accentuating it as part of the flaws of him not being able to win a match or playing into the story. We'll talk about another match later on, but this one just felt like he really wanted to make sure Uemura got a little bit extra than anyone else as one of those top baby faces. Uemura has that look with the mohawk, and some people call it an Elvis impersonation. I don't see that at all. I just see this guy as just genuine, hip, cool young baby face that has a really great finishing move with that deadbolt suplex, and frankly is connecting with the crowd at a really good babyface frequency, a vibe.
Yeah, and what we're also seeing here with some of the stuff in A Block is that parody where they're trying to keep all the scores close. Of course, Tanahashi, they don't want to bury the guy in his final G1, or he doesn't want to bury himself. We don't really know who's doing the booking on that, but you're right about how Tanahashi has been wrestling pretty well. Sonata seems to be trying harder than he usually does. What strikes me about Tanahashi is how smart he is, in that his timing is really outstanding still. He doesn't always know what he can't do anymore. And that can sometimes bite him a little bit, like when he tries to hurl himself over the top rope to do the high fly flow, and he doesn't always make it now, which is awkward.
Yes, yes, it is.
And sometimes it's his knees. He tells his knees to do something, they don't do it. When he's having a good knee day, so to speak, he still knows exactly when to do what. His timing is still right there. His sense of drama is certainly there. And he knows when to pull things out. And that's just as important as being able to do things physically sometimes. So Crash TV 83 mentions Sonata is on a G1 tour accompanied by a horse trailer to house all of his crazy outfits. He has been turning up the heat in the wardrobe department. No question about it.
The energy and vibe actually, gives you something to chew on while you're watching all these matches. The one thing I will say about the House of Torture on these A Block matches is I'm really thankful that they have blocked them. You get one and then the other with Evil and Sonata matches on these. I don't think I remember a night where they put those 2 matches apart from each other. You kind of got your dose of House of Torture, you took your medicine, and then you moved on. It wasn't like you had to do it 2 different times kind of thing. And I think that was really smart booking to minimize we got to run this back. So if you had a good feeling about a couple matches, it wasn't immediately going away because you have yet another House of Torture that you have to
Jeremy's mentioning that Sonata's not cheating as much as he thought. I'm kind of curious about that. It seems like
he may not have seen today.
It feels like he cheats every match. It's just a matter of he doesn't have the outside interference that Evil does. That's his gimmick. And but Sonata's still coming out there, and he's still trying to hit people with guitars. He doesn't always succeed, but he has he's gone through a couple
and the mule kick.
The mule kick. Yeah, there's always that. And a lot of low blows and things with Sonata.
He's got a mule kick down.
He does have that. So, and Colin mentions he's been enjoying Bolton Oleg's matches, has been good. Yes. I think if you took a look at Bolton's matches from previous G1s, we still green. And to now, I think he's leaps and bounds better than he was a year ago. That improvement is really taking hold. He's showing a lot in this tournament. I've enjoyed his performances as well.
So, I mentioned this to you earlier, and I don't know if anyone has been listening to Wrestling Observer Live, but I've been sending in notes about the G1, and just in exchange for Wrestling Observer to mention our podcast, just put it out there in the world. Like, it really is. Like, hey, just get that name out there. Like, I feel like I don't want to be paid. I don't want anything. And I swear to God, Alvarez could not avoid bringing up Oleg Bolton or Bolton Oleg, what his name is, out of the blue. Did not matter. But he did end up having a conversation with Tom Lawler about ELP, where Lawler was telling Alvarez that it's not ELP, it's LP.
But it would be EP, wouldn't it?
It would, yeah. Like, I'm with you. Like, but like the music, when his music starts, it's ELP. Right. Like, so you just go ELP. But apparently, according, like, this became a thing, just like Oleg Bolton and Bolton Oleg, where it's not ELP, it's LP. And I'm like, for about a week, I adopted it, and it was like, no, I'm not doing
Can't do it. Yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't really thought much about it, but if anything, it would be EP. Those would be the initials, because it's L is in the Phantasmo, the ghost.
Like
it's the ghost.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
is it the ghost or the shadow? No, it's the
Phantasm.
Shadow is Sombra. La Sombra is the shadow. That was Andrade's old gimmick, and Phantasmo is
it's a
ghost,
specter
right?
or a ghost.
Specter, yeah. There you go.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, I wanted to, it's like, but I digress.
And and Crash TV 83 says LP is and was an actual musician too.
Yeah, I think he did his own music. I think he did his
own
music. And like those glasses, he did it himself. He programmed something like 80 different light patterns. Those things have been selling out on tour, and like, I kind of want one. I kind
of. Jeremy's asking, how far does Umino get? Well, we are going to get to that, sir. We have all kinds of speculation coming at you here in a little while. But that was the show that kicked off the week there in Kagawa. So then there was a B block show that we're going to talk about later. Then we're back with the A block at the Fukuoka Convention Center. And that was the next one. The attendance for this one was 2,534, which was strong. Last year, there were 2 G1 shows in Fukuoka. And one drew 1,700, and the other drew 1,780. The other one drew 1,757. So very close. And this year, with just one show, 2,532. So not apples to apples there, Jeremy. It's hard to tell if things are really up or down in Fukuoka on that, but just one show compared to 2. But 2,500 is a strong crowd for this G1, which had pretty weak crowds. And we opened here. Bolton and Newman. Bolton really worked over Newman's back. And as this tournament has gone on, Newman's back has been attracting kinesiology tape the way bees attract, the way bears are attracted to honey, I guess. It has been one of those things where every time he goes to the ring, it seems like his back is more and more taped up. Could be a story for him in the final match, or just could be that he's simply getting beat up as this tournament goes on. The G1 will do that to you. Bolton caught him with a running knee and turned it into a kamikaze. Of course, that kamikaze is a terrific move because Bolton's so strong. He can kind of hit it from anywhere. He can catch anybody in any position. Somebody runs at him, he can just grab them. He can catch people coming off the top rope and just hoist them up onto his shoulders. So that kamikaze is a pretty effective finisher for him. And this was a really good match, and it put Bolton at 8 points. And so that kept Bolton in the mix.
I'm really liking what Bolton's doing on here. It was hard for me with Callum Newman coming in saying, I don't expect to win this, but I hope to show out and like make sure that you know my name, because it's just like you're killing the gimmick for me when you're doing that. Like you still need to come out there and be like, I'm going to win this thing. Even if nobody believes you, you need to believe yourself, kind of thing. And so I have really liked the aggression and some of the things that we've seen out of Newman. And he's really like hanging with a guy like Oleg and with Taichi and a couple of these other guys. And I don't want to say he's impressed me, but like people wonder why Callum Newman is in New Japan sometimes. And you see him in the G1 and you're like, okay, I see it. I 100% see it. And at the same time, like, where would he go if he wasn't here, number one? And number two, there's 300 guys that would take his spot in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
So he is stepping up into the role that he has, but his role is like El Phantasmo 4 years ago.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation right now in that we have these major companies in North America, and CMLL is fine. They have all the wrestlers they need. WWE and AEW could both afford anyone they want. They both have plenty of money to sign anybody they want, but they also both, despite having hours upon hours of national television, have rosters that they can't fit everybody on. You know, they can't get there are people sitting around and catering, to use the cliche, for both companies that are very talented, just because despite having all that television time, they have so many wrestlers, they can't fit them all in. So, you know, they can sign guys like ELP, and maybe they will, or Finlay or Callum Newman for that matter, but it's just a matter of, do they want to? Do they need more guys right now? They don't need more guys. So
they're going to want guys that they can make money off of.
Yeah.
You know,
and that doesn't feel like them right now.
If you see X Factor guys that are in there, like they saw Cobb, and when they got Cobb and they took him, like we saw, like, where would he end up on that roster? And he is firmly a guy like underneath a mid-card guy. You know what I mean? Like he's a heavy for a mid-card like heel leader. And that's a great role to have. You know what I mean? Like he went into that cage match at SummerSlam and took a couple of bumps and, you know, went home, and he's making more money than like you and I are. So like, God bless you, man.
He's probably making more than the guys getting the hell beaten out of him in Japan right now.
Absolutely. So like you sit there like, that's the goal, is to make a living and to like have a name, have a living, and walk away feeling like you've accomplished something and your body is still okay. Like Callum Newman is making his name. He is in the he's in the I'm going to show you who I am and you are going to listen. And it's going to take some time because there are a lot of people on top of him in a food chain in New Japan, and there's a lot of people in the food chain in the greater wrestling world. And so I expect to see him around for, 10, 15, 20 years. And there's a real good possibility that he has main event potential down the line, but it is down the line.
And Crash TV mentioned something here that's important. You kind of touched on it a bit. Callum is pulling it off for me. Definitely deserves way more cred. Long way to go. Only 22, which is an important point. But stepping it up, especially on playing out the
Crash TV guy. Matches. He sounds smart.
Newman says, Brad says Newman, I think, is fine. I'm sure he's going to get better. Something with him hasn't clicked for me yet. Okay, well, fair enough. But they're not.
He's a mid-card,
they are
wrestler.
They aren't over pushing him yet. Yeah, I think so too. Now, the next match is one that I'm anxious to get to some of your comments on, because I agree that this ended up being one of the better matches of the tournament. We had Ryohei Oiwa against Taichi, and this was a really good, stiff, big move kind of match. And it was their first singles encounter post Young Lion time. So post Oiwa's excursion. Back and forth without any real sustained advantage for everybody. Just two guys just beating the heck out of each other and hitting big moves. And in the end, Oiwa got the grip and won it. And that put him at 8 and put Taichi kind of on the brink. But as far as points go, and we'll talk about how things have gone for Taichi since, but Brad mentions Taichi and Oiwa, favorite match so far. It was that match had me ready to rip my shirt off and run through a wall. Please take video if you do. We would appreciate it.
That's how I thought about Takeshita and Great Okan.
And Colin says, agreed, Brad. Taichi Oiwa was fantastic. This is just a fabulous match. And another example of of Taichi beating Uemura in that just 5 guys thing. He beat Tsuji right there. You know, he wants to be that. He wants to be the guy that you have to fight your way through. And in the end, he ends up losing to Oiwa in a fantastic match. And again, Taichi, despite being now mathematically eliminated, has been absolutely wonderful in his role in this.
I was a big believer of Taichi coming into it. I was a big believer when he replaced Goto for kayfabe, not kayfabe reasons. And I have held pretty firm that, you know, his booking is concurrent with what I think that they would have done with Goto, very similar to it. So all in all, I've been very pleased that Taichi has had the resurgence that he's had in 2025, given, you know, the opportunity, like, hey, all these other guys, you want to be the guy to this, hell yeah. And you can kind of see that he's very happy to have the opportunity. You know what I mean? Like he feels like he kind of feels like Sheamus in WWE right now, like that old dude that like all of a sudden is just putting on banger after banger after banger with when he had a career like up to a point where people are like, Taichi, come on. Or like he's just put in that position. And now he's just that dude like you look forward to it. Like Taichi's in a match with Oiwa. Ooh, that could be a good one. And you know, for the next year, 2 years, I think we're gonna have a lot of like Taichi middle of the card matches. You know, he's not in a tag, he's got a singles match, and he is going to be putting over some of these guys, and they are going to be like good, hard hitting matches. And he's going to be sweating, and you know, like I'm going to be loving that little bop of a song that comes out, and you know, the whole deal. And when it comes to Oiwa, I love it, man. He's great.
And I stand by what I said on the whole thing is that 2025 isn't Oiwa's year, but it's coming. No, it might be 2026. You know, it might be 2026, but there's other things to do this year, and Oiwa's going to be a part of it, but not the main part of it. But his time's coming. His time is absolutely coming.
One of my big talking points of last week when you were listening was, you know, I like this G1. And, you know, you're establishing guys, and you got the Takeshitas, and you got the Finlays, and the Evils, and the Yotsujis. There's not a whole lot of room for the younger guys to come up just this year. But next year, watch out. That is going to be an open field full of like Oiwas and Uemuras and Umanos and Naritas. All could possibly be in post-block play contention. Conversations about some of those guys. Like, people are going to be advocating hard for Oiwa and Yuya Uemura to get that G1 main event spot next year. If they have good campaigns over the next year, it's like you're going to have segmented parts of the fandom, like all wanting a different one of these young guys coming up. And I'm actually really excited about that.
Fair enough. One more note on Taichi. I do want to say I'm Crash TV is with me on this one, Jeremy. I do disagree with you on how they would have booked Goto if he were in the tournament. I don't think he has 6 points and out at this stage if he's in the tournament. I think if Goto were in there, this is a guy that spent the first 6 months of the year as the not 6 months, but several months of this year as a very beloved world champion. I don't think they would have knocked him out early on that one. So, but either way, we'll see. We'll see how he does in Street Fighter. After that, we had Sonata and Uemura. Again, we need to pull Uemura back because the whole story of A Block is that it's a big log jam. So Sonata defeated Uemura with a ref bump, whiskey, a guitar shot, blah, blah, blah. And you can always tell, by the way, when the guitar is going to get busted and when it's not, because you can see when it's gimmicked. There's a little seam in the back of it. You can tell when the guitar's been getting. They're smart enough to gimmick it. Remember, Jake Roberts, they damaged Jake pretty bad by smashing him with the best guitar money could buy with the Honky Tonk Man once, and everyone's learned their lesson since. Don't do that. If you get a good guitar and smash it over someone's head, it'll injure them. But not these. These look like they're made out of
bamboo.
Yeah, there ain't much to them, thankfully. Good. That's good. After that, we had Finlay versus Evil. And this is one that I was really happy with how they handled it. It had real steam on it. Now, the dog collar match was Dominion was allegedly going to be the blow off, but then like we talked about it at the time, they stepped on that match by announcing that they were in the same G1 block a couple of matches before the dog collar match happened. So we knew it wasn't going to be the end of anything. And of course, they put some more heat on it with Evil beating Finlay in that one. But Finlay, of course, we mentioned it. Back was to the wall. Can't afford any more losses. He's in there with the guy that he hates more than anybody else in the company at this point. Even said in comments he hates Evil more than he hated Jay White, more than he hated anyone that he'd run into in wrestling at that point. And he worked it like that. He worked it like the match really meant something to him. There was heat in this. And of course, there was all the usual shenanigans from the House of Torture, but Finlay rallied. He ended up taking out both Dick Togo and Bad Luck Fale himself. He even suplexed Fale, which got a big pop. When the time came, he fought fire with fire, which, my goodness, if there's one thing I wish New Japan did more of, it was that with baby faces where they just get fed up and fight fire with a little bit of fire. He got the shillelagh and he whacked Evil over the head with the shillelagh behind the referee's back, which the crowd loved because we've seen House of Torture do that to so many baby faces. Kenta Sato came out to count. Fale even pulled Evil up at the 2 count. Or Finlay did. I said Fale, I think. Finlay even pulled Evil up at the 2 count. Then still hit the Dominator, pinned him. Big blow-off victory for Finlay here. That gave him 2 matches worth of momentum and another big babyface moment. It was a little bit of catharsis after all the stuff with, the dog pound match ending with Evil choking him with the chain, the dog collar match that didn't have a satisfactory babyface ending. This was the blow off, I felt. and again, you can't make Finlay look much more babyface than this did.
How wild was it that the crowd was here for it when Finlay assaulted Evil at the beginning of the match before the crowd?
Yeah.
Like, they're like, oh, yeah, you get him, guy.
I'm telling you that
the entire match with Finlay getting him.
The most over as a babyface Shota Umino has been is when he went badass on Ren Narita and beat the hell out of him through Korakuen.
I'm gonna beat your ass now.
Yeah, it's when people get fed up. And this is the thing that, not to jump around too much, but when Cody lost the title to Cena, it's like he couldn't bring himself to do a heelish thing to a guy that had done horrible things to him. Right. And then Cena kicked him in the low and then pinned him. Right. And Cody looked like a putz. And the one thing that brought to mind was, of all people, Cody, to mess that up, because one of the guys, one of the baby faces that was the very best at getting dirty when he had to get dirty, was Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes would do horrible things to heels once he finally had enough, right? Now, Cody should have known that. When baby faces stand up for themselves like that and just say, no, you're hitting me with every object, I'm going to blister you with the stamp shillelagh. That's good. You shouldn't go in there and say, well, he's a baby face, he shouldn't cheat. No, he can cheat if someone pushes him far enough. He can do something nasty if someone pushes him to that point, which Evil obviously has, and more so. And there's so much stuff in New Japan that makes the baby faces look either dumb or gullible or weak. And we're going to talk about some of it because some of that's been in this tournament. For Finlay just to go, screw it all, I am going to fight fire with fire here. That'll get the crowd behind you. There needs to be more of that. You can't do it every show, but a babyface just saying enough's enough. I'm going to fight as dirty as they fight. That gets over, and that works.
Yeah, there's a comic from the 90s, and it's got Batman in like this fortress, right? And he's surrounded by a bunch of evil white shape-shifting Martians, and they think they have him cornered. And there's a really famous line that he says in this, and he's like, you don't get it. I'm not stuck in here with you. You're stuck in here with me.
Nice.
And like, that's how I felt with Finlay in this, where it was like, no, it's my turn. You're stuck with me in this match, and I'm going to make you pay. And, like, you do that every match, and you're just like, you kind of get cold, but like you said, the catharsis of doing it once in a while, and man, it just hits. Like, it's that sugar bomb.
Yeah, and Crash is asking, is this the one where Finlay dumped Fale? Yeah, and suplexed him again, showing that strength.
His excitement when he pulled that off. You know, it was just like he had like that shit-eating grin on his face, and he was coming around like, yeah, I just pulled that one.
The main event was Hiroshi Tanahashi and Yota Tsuji. Now, this was pretty good considering Tanahashi's knees.
Mm-hmm.
He managed to pull off a high fly flow both to Tsuji's back and then to his front to win it. And it ended up being Tanahashi's 100th G1 victory. And after being shot out of a cannon early in the tournament, Yota Tsuji, at that point, lost 2 in a row. Tanahashi gets to say goodbye to everybody there in Fukuoka, and he got the speech. And it was his 100th, this is incredible, 100th G1 Climax victory. That just shows you how important he's been to this company and for how long to win 100 G1 matches. It comes over Yota Tsuji is. Again, we talked about everybody coming back to the pack, right, Jeremy? At the end of the show, everybody in A block had either 6 or 8 points. Fantastic. Everybody that was sitting on 8 going into it lost. So here we are. Everybody 6 or 8.
Fantastic. Yeah, there was some talk maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, like, oh, hey, you know, like Hiroshi Tanahashi, you know, 100 G1 wins. And if New Japan was really paying attention to this, they would have booked him to win exactly 100 at the very end. But I think they kind of didn't realize it, and then realized that they had an opportunity to have some fun with it before, you know, he had his next match. Because, you know, we were booking this all out, and I said, like, oh, hey, you know, one of the things that I have lined up is Sonata and Tanahashi before Tanahashi and Evil. And the first part of it's played out the way that we have. But this whole, like, they've really, it's not sad. And it's not like you're not cringing at the Tanahashi stuff during this tournament, you know? Like, and there was like a real chance that it was going to be like, we were going to have to be polite, but like, say, like, man, maybe he shouldn't have been in this G1. And I don't feel that way about this. Like, I think he's been totally fine in this G1. He has not had to carry the G1 on his back. There's so much talent in this G1 that there's been at least 2 or 3 work rate matches every night that have nothing to do with him. And so, like, it's a matter of making stars, but in terms of the ability in the ring, the talent's there.
All right. So from there, we moved on to Korakuen Hall, and that was the show from today. So here, August 7th, the Korakuen Hall. That had to be good for morale to see a full Korakuen Hall after, you know, the disaster of the Friday show at Oda Ward previously when no one showed up.
That was a conversation everybody was having, that nobody watched New Japan. Nobody went to that show. You know, like, it's okay. One show, it happens. It was a Friday night. There might have been some like really big thing going on.
And I was thinking about this, Jeremy, because the attendance number bothered me too. And I've been to both those buildings. I was just at both of them in January. We mentioned before where Korakuen Hall is, right by the Tokyo Dome, which is right in Tokyo Dome City, which has an amusement park attached to it. And I was thinking about the differences between the two places. Oda Ward Gym is not in a touristy area of Tokyo. It is in a very residential area. It is not close to the city center like Shibuya, Shinjuku, Tokyo Dome City, a place where people would kind of go to mill around. Tokyo Dome City, there are dozens of places to eat. Even after the show. And a lot of restaurants in Japan that aren't the train station izakayas and all that stuff, those close. Other places close at 9 or 9 o'clock at night. It's not unusual for a restaurant to close. Here's the point I'm trying to make. Tokyo Dome City, there are a lot of restaurants that are open late. There are a lot of bars in the area that are open late. There are places open 24 hours around there, right outside of Korakuen Hall. Oda Ward is in a very different part. It's not close to a train station. Shimbashi Station drops you off right across the street, basically, from Korakuen Hall. It's a very short walk over. The station where Oda Ward is, there's quite a long walk, something like 10 or 15-minute walk, depending on how fast you are, to the building itself. It's not by the train station. It's in a residential area. There aren't a lot of restaurants around there. So I wonder if on a Friday, people are sitting there just going, I got to work all day. And then I got to take a train to Oda, then take a long walk to a place where I can't get food after. When am I going to have dinner? They're like, when am I ever going to eat? Oda doesn't even have a concession stand. Oda just has a few vending machines that sell drinks. Like there's really not, like Korakuen Hall has some food in it, but it's just not a very welcoming place on a weeknight. On the weekend, it's a different story and all that. But I wonder if people I don't want to work all day and then not eat and then not have anything to get, not be able to get anything afterwards. Right. And
I don't know.
It's just not as
outlier night,
Yeah. And it has the historic thing where one, it's fairly, because all the things I mentioned, it's fairly no frills. It doesn't cost a ton to run Oda Ward Gym. You don't need a staff of however many people to keep the gym open and staff the concession stands and all that. You don't need that. So it can't be a very expensive place to run. But I do wonder if people are just sitting there going, I don't want to go all the way out there tonight.
Sure.
After working all day.
If the card doesn't have what was the August 1st or it was a week or so ago.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have more than a couple of matches and you're hedging, well, it could be really good. But if it's not, then it's a whole thing. It's a mental calculation.
Yeah.
And for some people, if you're going to later shows or whatever, I can skip this one. It'll be okay. Yeah. And I just, it felt like an outlier thing afterwards than it did ring the alarm bells. People don't like this G1 and aren't going.
Well, and there are signs like that. But that one I wonder because it did better on Saturday. When people weren't coming straight from work and all that stuff. It's not easy to get to. The other part about Korakuen is, because it's in that Tokyo Dome city, there are multiple train lines that go right by Korakuen Hall, and it's much more accessible. Oda Ward's kind of off on its own a little bit. So USVA guys here, it's good to see you. He said there are a lot of factors to why attendance is down at Oda, but it is kind of a trek away from things. Yeah. So anyway, so back at Korakuen here, and the place was full. The place was absolutely full. For this one, about 1,500 in Korakuen there, and even a few people up in the balconies looking down over things, it looked like. It started off with Newman and Taichi.
And this was the show today, everybody. So we are getting caught up, and we'll be moving forward on the A block talking after this.
That's also, Crash mentions this too, by the way. Tsuji winking at Tanahashi before going by the curtain was a nice touch. He said ringside was jams with fans and towels afterwards. Yeah, there was kind of a wink and a nod. That's not the last time we're going to be seeing Tsuji and Tanahashi before January 4th. Anyway, Newman and Taichi, Princess Curse Brainbuster to win a good match. Newman's back is beat up. It's part of the story that everybody he wrestles now works on that back because he has all the kinesiology tape on it. But he got the victory here. That eliminated Taichi officially, which is fine. Taichi's victory was getting into the tournament after being left out last year. Not left out, but not winning the qualifier. Not winning the qualifier this year, getting that second chance. And then his job's just to have good matches. He's accomplished all of that. And even though he is eliminated, this has been nothing but a win for Taichi.
Absolutely. No, nothing to add. Let's move on.
Okay. After that, we had Evil and Bolton. This was House of Torture all day, every day. This match was almost all interference. There was a ref bump. Fale ended up putting Oleg through a table with Fale jumping off the top rope. Props to Bolton for laying there and watching that guy come down on him like that on the table. I was worried that table wasn't going to survive Bolton laying on it, let alone Fale flying through it too. I guess this was their version of protecting Bolton, but they did everything in the sun to him and beat him. This wasn't good.
I just kind of was thankful that, at least it wasn't too long.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I was going to say about it.
There were better matches on the show today, but of the House of Torture matches, I was far more amused by the next one.
Yeah. And after that one, we had a pretty good one. You're right. This one was Tanahashi and, well, no, we had a quick one first before we got to the good one. Tanahashi and Sonata was weird. This was really quick, which is likely for the best for two guys whose bodies are shot and working a lot of matches in close proximity to one another, as far as days, consecutive days go, and things like that. Because they are working some preview tags too, although they're not doing much in them and shouldn't. But this was a few moves, a ref bump, a guitar shot. Sonata goes to cover. Tanahashi rolls him up and pins him in a flash pin. And then Tanahashi immediately lays there like he's unconscious. Right again. Right. Like it was
almost muscle memory that he rolled this guy up and then he was back to being
and then he was back to being absolutely out cold. It was weird.
Okay, so
it eliminates Sonata. Tanahashi is still mathematically involved in this thing. It wasn't good because these two weren't physically capable of doing anything, but it's probably all it ever should have been. It would have been a disaster if they tried to do a whole lot more. So I guess it was fine, but weird.
Here's what I liked about the match. And it basically, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, it was two broken down wrestlers able to pull off a GCW kind of like smoke and mirrors quick match with the guitar shot, like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
damning with fake praise.
This was not a work rate match, but they
damning with faint praise if there ever was an example of it.
But here's the compliment. Okay. These two are veterans and they figured it out no matter what. Tanahashi went up for that high fly flow or the aces high or whatever, and he was losing his bout. He was going down. And so Sonata pushed the referee into the ropes to make it look like he was the one responsible for Tanahashi. Because Tanahashi was going down either way with the way that he was balancing on that rope. And they managed to make it part of the story in a way that, like, it wasn't embarrassing for Tanahashi and it made perfect sense for Sonata. So it was just one of those, you guys are really, really smart, and I'm really thankful that you guys didn't kill yourself trying to prove that you still had it, and you could just do a match that sent the audience home happy.
All right. So from there, we had two really, really good ones to finish.
Yeah.
Yuya Uemura, Ryohei Oiwa. Absolutely pure babyface match. I loved it. This felt like Ricky Steamboat versus early Barry Windham levels of wholesome with these two. And the crowd was reacting to everything. Every reversal of chain wrestling that happened, they were into it. And to me, Jeremy, this felt like the fans of Korakuen were signaling to the company, yes, this is more of what we want. These are the guys we want. They were being encouraging. We want new stars. We want something different. They don't cheer reversals of hammerlocks very often, but the crowd was here for this match. And the chain wrestling early on as much as anything else in it. And I felt like the fans were trying to tell the company, yes, these guys, let's go. Like enough of them getting to the precipice and losing. Let's go. It's time. We're ready for this. And maybe I'm reading too much into that. Maybe we just had a responsive crowd, but to me, it just felt a little bit different that the fans were really happy to be seeing these two wrestle. And then as the match went on, it was fantastic. And Oiwa got a short arm grip, his little clothesline there, the grip. And but it was a short arm version, not the full version. And then he went to do more. There was a scramble. Uemura came up with a really smart way of getting him into the deadbolt. He hit the deadbolt 1, 2, 3. Terrific match, and I have a feeling we're going to be seeing this one for years to come. And I think this match is a sign that those matches we have a lot of really good stuff to look forward to.
Yeah, this is what I meant when I want to circle back around to that whole, man, the G1 next year and moving forward with these guys that, like, they're cutting their teeth and you're getting a sense of what they're going to do in these singles matches. And if I'm not mistaken, this is a first time non-Young Lion like matchup for these two, like a singles matchup. Like, this is fresh. This is the first time that we've seen it. And I made a point, to mention that in the report. It's like, hey, it's like, we got first time matchups. Some of these young guys that are coming in here, it's like, if you're paying attention, like, you're going to be hot for this. And, you know, like that crowd knew that this was like the first time that these two were going one-on-one. And, you know, like, they're trying to figure out which one the company is choosing to be the guy. You know, like, Hugh's the big baby face. Is he going to be Oiwa, that big, like, muscle-bound, like, monster of a baby face? Or is it going to be Yuya Uemura, who gives the heart, who, like, shows, like, that passion? And both of them have something to offer in terms of, like, yeah, they both are probably carrying the IWGP title at some point. Like, I look at both of them like, yeah, you both have one. You both have it. And I was really excited for this match, and I felt incredibly validated for that excitement when it was over.
Okay. Well, we're almost at the 1 hour mark, so we're going to move a little quicker here as we go. David Finlay and Yota Tsuji was the main event. Again, really good. Tsuji has had Finlay's number for the last year, which is something they brought up so much in commentary that you knew that Finlay was going to win this one. But it also made sense for the storyline as far as keeping everybody in it until the last day, or as many as possible in it until the last day. And a Tsuji win would have eliminated about half the block. So you knew they really couldn't do that with more shows to go. And yeah, in the end, it was a really good match between the two. Tsuji remains stalled at 8 points after 3 losses, all in good matches. So his performances have been fabulous, but he has come back to the pack. And once again, Finlay continues on his run, where now he is in a position to make the playoffs after being at 1 point 1-4. So good stuff. Enjoyed it. And Tsuji, despite this losing streak, has been wrestling really well in this tournament. And for this one, the crowd was still mostly behind Tsuji at the beginning of it there. So, but I think that's a good sign. They still believe in Yota, and I think that's going to pay off.
The one thing about Yota in this tournament, and I don't know if you just haven't kicked it into high gear yet because we're not in the post-block play, and I really do think that, like, it's without a doubt he's going to post-block play barring injury or whatever, is that he hasn't quite put it into overdrive to really separate himself from everyone else in the block. Like, this is a block full of, like, really talented matches and, you know, very special, at least 5 guys that are having, like, bangers almost every night, you know, with, you know, Taichi, Yuya, Ryohei, Yota, and Finlay. Like, they're all and Bolton, they're all having, like, really, really good matches. I'm waiting for Yota to have that match that says, yeah, I'm head and shoulders above the rest of them.
Well, we'll see if we get that. Maybe saving things up for the playoffs.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking.
So, all right, let's take a look at the A block standings now and see where we are as we approach these final shows. So, Yuya Uemura and Evil lead the field with 10 points each. After that, here's a list of guys on 8. Hiroshi Tanahashi, Bolton Oleg, Yota Tsuji, Ryohei Oiwa, Callum Newman, David Finlay, all on 8. The only people that are eliminated, Sonata and Taichi, each with 6, and not enough matches left to get back to the field. So, with that in mind, we will talk about some of the matchups to come, but there you have it. Uemura and Evil on 10. The rest of the block basically on 8, minus Taichi and Sonata.
And there's only one more night of action in this block. So, coming up, we're going to have Evil versus Tanahashi, Taichi versus Oleg Bolton, Yuya Uemura versus David Finlay, Yota Tsuji versus Callum Newman, and Ryohei Oiwa versus Sonata.
And that's Sunday, August 10th, and that's going to be the wrap-up of the A block. Uemura and Finlay feels like a playoff match. You know, like winning you're in, do or die. Taichi and Bolton, that one's probably not going to be as...
Evil versus Tanahashi is a winning you're in.
Yeah, and that one feels like a good way to put heat on Evil if he screws over Tanahashi in some way.
And I mean, he lost at Wrestle Kingdom, so I'm thinking Evil wins this one. Pretty, you know what I mean? You got the win over Sonata. It was a roll up. He like lucked out. I think your luck runs out against Evil on that.
And you know, Oiwa and Sonata, that's a potential banana peel match for Oiwa. And then Tsuji and Newman is interesting. Newman has won 3 of his last 4. Tsuji is on a 3-match losing streak. So, you know, there's a story there that Tsuji is going to choke, basically. Or is he going to be able to clear that final hurdle and move on. So that'll be Sunday. We'll see. And Brad mentions this hasn't been an all-time great G1, but it's been a really fun tournament. And in ring, it's been very good. Yeah, in ring.
The last thing I'll add to this one is the dark horse match in which it could go either way. I'm really leaning Finlay, but that Yuya Uemura versus David Finlay is also a winning you're in, and if you don't, you're out. Yeah. And I'm not totally ruling out Yuya Uemura winning that one.
Yeah.
It's like they're got real 20, 25%, like a 1 to 3 kind of odds kind of thing that they could surprise people and, accelerate the ghetto fracture with Finlay, depending on, Jake Lee or whatever. But it feels like it's too early to do the rug pull and that it has to be kind of post-block play for Finlay rather than the block play that, gets ghetto feeling like, okay, I'm done with you.
Yeah. All right. So we will move on to the B block now after that. So again, we're going out of chronological order a little bit and going back to the B block on August 2nd. They were in the Hiroshima Sun Plaza. Attendance for this one was 2,002. Last year it was 1,972. So very, very close. It was 2,006 people in 2023. So from 1,972 to 2,006, we're within about 31, we're within about 30 or 40 people year after year. It's a very consistent crowd in Hiroshima. It began with Shota and Yoshihashi, and this continued the cooling off, or was really the beginning of the cooling off of Yoshihashi's hot start. He was 4-1 going into this match. Fans were into Yoshi, but the second chapter did him in. And Yoshi is a good example of how you can put it together late in a career. And it's a little similar to Taichi in that, there were maybe 5, maybe more years of his New Japan career where you thought he's good, not great. And then later here is he's just putting it all together and doing some really great stuff in the ring and becoming an elite tag team with Bishamon seems to have given him more confidence. He always had good singles matches in the G1, but now it seems like he has a different aura about him. Yoshihashi does, and but in the end here he put over Shota Umino. It was good toward the end, but I got to say the Shota's connection with the fans is just kind of missing something. It's just not quite there. But this got Yoda to 6, stalled Yoshihashi at 8. But it did feel like the crowd was definitely more into Yoshihashi than Shooter. And it does feel like a disconnect.
They're working on it. I think the muscle gain and I think the aggressiveness is helping, but I never expected this to be fixed overnight. You know what I mean? So this is all still a project. They're clearly not giving up on the guy, and the guy is clearly putting in the work to try and change anything that he can. So I get it. This Yoshihashi, feels like he's been toiling and he's been doing his thing in New Japan, and now there's just kind of spot at the table for him because it opened up. And he'd earned it a long time ago, but it was also sorry, there's just no room for you in that kind of place. And there's also the sense of it may be that the die is cast as to what his role is, and his ceiling is going to be a tag team champion. And maybe he gets a short run as the never open weight champion. It's kind of a feel good kind of campaign later on. But he's got a great spot and he is validated in where he's at. And I hope everybody's happy with it.
Yeah. After that, we had Shingo Takagi and El Phantasmo, and they mentioned the winner or the loser has to call the winner daddy match they had not too long ago. Yeah, they could have let that one die on the vine. I wouldn't have minded so much if they didn't bring that up. But this match had a good progression from them kind of working the crowd earlier with ELP and Shingo with his own set of initials to the crowd and trying to get the fans on their side. But by the end of the match, it had a very different tone from the beginning, and they were wrestling really well at the end of this one. And it was a good match here with the last of the Dragon finish. That dropped ELP to 1-5, basically dropped him out of the tournament. Got Shingo back to 500 at 3-3. ELP not getting the results, but having pretty good matches.
Was that 1-5 take into account the Gabe Kidd automatic win that he? Or
no, I think that's still to come. Yeah, he's only won one match in the ring.
Yeah, so there are some calculators that have figured in all of Gabe Kidd's forfeits, and then there are some calculators that are waiting until the match happens to award points. So I was pretty sure that he had won a match prior, but I like there are things committed to memory here, and ELP's win-loss record was not automatically committed to memory in the immediate banks of access. I really like this match, though. I think Shingo Takagi has been doing fantastic work. I don't necessarily think that his campaign, even though it's similar to David Finlay, is going to end. One of them might make it in, and the other one isn't. You can't do the story twice and have them both do it, because it just doesn't feel like it works. But the thing about the Shingo Takagi story is that not everyone's going to make it, and if you really sell the urgency of trying to get in, and you don't make it, it makes getting in feel more important.
That's a fair point. Yeah, that is true. Jeremy asks, should Shota go more violent?
Yes.
Yeah, I think intensity is what's missing. And I don't remember who brought it up. It might have been Colin, it might have been Crash, or at a show a couple of weeks ago where he kind of looks indifferent, and then he hands something to some kid in the crowd, and the kid kind of looks indifferent to the whole thing, because that connection just isn't there. It doesn't. And so I think maybe a more heelish, more intense Shota would help. Yeah. But it needs a little juice. It just needs a little juice. But I would be okay with it. I'd be okay with him going heel. I think it might be the right move. I don't know. Anywho, moving on from that, Takeshita and Drilla Maloney. This match was good enough that I was sitting there just thinking, you know what? Maloney could lead the War Dogs if he he really does. I mean, it helps that he was in there with Takeshita, who's a wizard, but Maloney really has a lot of charisma. This match was really good. Maloney used it as a revenge play, since Takeshita was in the ring with Kidd when Kidd got hurt. And so the story was that Takeshita injured him, even though that's not literally what happened, but it's the only story. It makes ton of sense.
Negative to a positive, right?
Yeah, and then the further story is that when Maloney does things like this, he loses his temper and makes a key mistake, and that's what happened in this match here. The key mistake came. Takeshita got Raging Fire, hit that one, beat him. Maloney was 4-1 going into this one. He and Yoshihashi were the surprise leaders of the block. Again, this point in the tournament, we got to bring people back to the pack, start bringing others up. So Maloney took the loss here, but everything Takeshita touches in this tournament's been fabulous.
He's been great.
I mixed my tenses there. Everything he has done in this tournament has been fabulous.
He's turned it to gold. Takeshita gold is what I like to call it. No, Drill Maloney, I think I said it while you weren't here, if they're kicking the tires on this guy and you want him like potentially in a leadership role, and Finlay and Gabe Kidd are not here in 2026, he's a good guy to elevate in that role. He won't be ready day one, but he'll be ready eventually.
Main event was Zack Sabre Jr. and Great Okan. Both of them came into the match at 3 wins, 2 losses, a lot of grappling, and really putting over Okan's martial arts mastery. Okan's martial arts disciplines gets to be like Andre the Giant's weight, doesn't it, Jeremy? It seems like every time they talk about how many styles Okan has mastered, the number gets a little bit higher, just like every time someone talks about...
Well, that's what happened when you're the greatest Okan.
He is the greatest of the Okans, there's no question. And in this one, Zack got the submission on Okan after breaking the claw hold, and that put Zack at 4-2 after his rough start. This one was pretty good. Zack knows how to work with somebody like Okan, and the submission grappling hit nicely, and it was a nice contrast to some of the other stuff we've seen in the tournament. It had a different vibe to it. Good performances by both men. And after Zack's rough start, again, he's up to 8 points, the world champion, back on track. Ren Narita got the Gabe Kidd bye. That put him on 8 points as well. But worth mentioning, Jeremy says it too, Great Okan, he's not going to win the tournament, or Great Okan isn't going to win the tournament. They aren't going to go into post block play, but a very strong performance for Okan.
We go through this every year. He's the best in the G1. Like, it's literally the time that he shines every year. He went to the post block play. They gave him that strong run last year. All of these things are true. But when it comes to the outside of the G1, when it comes to putting him in these singles matches, he's just not able to maintain the interest in these feuds so much to carry it forth. And I hope that changes. But until then, I'm always going to be confident that the greatest Okan is going to be the greatest when he tries to conquer others in the G1 Climax.
Yeah, so at this point, Yoshihashi, Drill Maloney, Takeshita, Zack, and Narita all had 8 points. Kid and ELP eliminated. Of course, Kid had to withdraw, and Phantasmo eliminated there. So then they moved on to Osaka on August 5th to a dismal crowd of 1,142 at the Intex Hall. And that's inexcusable. How in the world do you draw only 1,100 in a city with 20 million people? I don't know what went wrong here. I know it's not the usual building. They usually go to Edion Arena, which is where they have Grand Sumo once a year. Even the secondary building there, the Osaka Prefectural Gymnasium, is in that building. It's in that same complex.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one that just has the basketball goals in the background. It's just a large basketball gym, really. And that whole thing's being renovated. So as soon as the March sumo tournament shut down, they started renovating that building so it would be ready for next year's sumo tournament. So we don't have Edion Arena like we normally do. They went to that Yamato Arena, which is, I guess, a college gym earlier in the tournament. That is about, I looked this up because I wondered if it was an Oda Ward gym situation. That Yamato thing did okay drawing. It's way up north, like an hour train ride north of Oda Ward. But not Oda Ward, of Edion. Excuse me, Edion. Again, similar to Korakuen Hall, Edion Arena is very close to the touristy Dotonbori, the food stalls. Osaka is called Japan's kitchen. All these great plazas where you can get all this really good food and the izakayas and all this stuff. This is where the tourists go in Osaka. Edion is close to that. Again, it has the benefit of all the train lines. Has the benefit of a lot of just general traffic. It's easy to get to. There's places to eat. There's things to do in the area. Maybe Yamato Gym didn't have that. This Centrex is in a convention center. So that this is in another part of town. It's over closer to the water. And I just don't know if people felt like going, because I don't know how you go into Osaka and only draw 1,100 people. It's just a terrible, terrible number. So it was... Osaka has not shown up for this tournament at all. It's just been very odd. And it's not like they're getting bad wrestling. They are not, because there was some good stuff here. And the first match, one of my little sleepers in my favorite matches in the tournament, I'm not saying it's the favorite, but it's on the list. Takeshita and Yoshihashi had a banger.
Man, it was delightful.
It was wonderful. And Yoshi slide in results continues. They sent him out to kind of pace the field a little bit earlier. He won and won and won. But this match got Takeshita up to 10 points, stalled Yoshihashi out. But a fabulous match between two really good workers. We know Takeshita is the guy, but these two had really good chemistry, and I would be more than happy to see these two meet again in the singles.
I think they probably should. I mean, I just did that thing about Great Okan and how he's really great in the G1, but he seems to be a miss when he's feuding outside of it. I don't feel the same way about Yoshihashi. I just think in general, the dude is solid, and he's a good guy to put on a card and have a really solid singles match when he's there. Granted, when you see him in a singles match, you immediately think, oh, mid-card or lower. Like everyone who saw this Takeshita versus Yoshihashi match looked past it and thought, oh, there's other matches on here that I'm really looking forward to. And then, I'm sure Yoshihashi and Takeshita is going to be good, but I'm not going to prioritize it. If you're looking for all the Takeshita matches, well, I'm sorry to tell you, you need to make time for this match. Yoshihashi is not the guy who tripped and fell in the ring with Jay White anymore. This guy can go, and the chain wrestling that he does with Takeshita in here is just eye-popping. I think it's just like, whoa, hey, like look at this sequence at the beginning of the match, or all throughout the match. I don't even remember how long it went, but because it was the four match card, everybody got a little bit of extra time on here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was one, by the way, where Umino got the bye, so he didn't have a match there.
Oh man, that was the match I really wanted. Gabe Kidd and Umino is the true tragedy of this tournament. Is that was one that, yeah.
And Crash TV mentioned this, since we're not going to mention Shota a whole lot moving forward. He said another thing with Shota is he seems more comfortable when he's goofing around. Like some of it has been incorporated into his entrance video. Not sure where anyone thinks they should go with him. Interesting point, because there was a video, Jeremy, just before they did the turn with Ren Narita. And it was one of those little features they put on NJPW World that come across the bottom of the screen, not one of the cards or anything like that. And it was before that tag tournament. It was to set them up for the turn, basically. So it had Shota and Ren being interviewed at night in one of those restaurants that have the fire pit outside, and you kind of sit around the fire having your drinks. And that's how they shot it, to look cool with a little fire in front of them and all this stuff. And these two were just joking around, talking about how good of friends they are, just before Narita stabbed him in the back, right? In the tag tournament. And they subtitled it. It was one of the very few they've actually subtitled. Shota's funny. And I hadn't thought about it much. Like Shota's funny. Like they were making jokes, and then they were laughing, and they were funny jokes. It wasn't forced. And I think Crash might have hit on something, that he does have a sense of humor if they want to tap into that, but they never do. They always make him so sullen, where he looks depressed, or he's just sad all the time, or he's trying to portray anger and, again, not connecting, or he looks indifferent. I'm not trying to say turn him into a comedy wrestler. That's not the point, but it seems like there is more of a gregarious side of him that's not coming across in his performance, that's he can pull out when he's doing those videos. So he just needs to harness that in some ways.
It'd be interesting if they're,
John Cena is a funny guy, and he is. John is funny. When he gets on the microphone, he can convey that while still being a badass. And he did it his whole babyface run in the WWE. He could be funny when talking about the heels, but he could also turn it on when he needs to. That's the kind of thing Shooter needs, I think. Anyway.
It's possible they go with, really leaning into his easygoing, like gregarious, smiley side. But, like one of those things that I was kind of looking at down the line with the Gabe Kidd thing is that's the match at Wrestle Kingdom, is Gabe Kidd versus Shota Umino for the global title. But if Gabe Kidd is a baby face for that title at the time, like there's an opportunity there that Shota like does really well in the G1 and then loses immediately to another babyface, and it just kind of like, no matter what I do, like blah blah blah, and it just kind of sends him over the edge. I wouldn't immediately discount that, like the G1 is the driver to major change generationally each year with this stuff, and so we're going to be seeing some G1 fallout, because there's only going to be one main event, but there's plenty of people that they need to book for that in Tokyo Dome.
After that, we had Ren Narita and Great O'Khan. There was House of Torture stuff, of course. Both Kanemaru. So they were doing the submission thing. Both Kanemaru and later on Jacob Austin Young rang the ring bell while the other guy had the submission on. That was the whole thing they do all the time with House of Torture, where the babyface has a submission on, somebody rings the bell outside, and it always makes the babyface look like a moron, because the entire crowd knows what's going on. The referee knows what's going on, yet the idiot babyface always releases the hold. Like, hey, I won.
How do you hear a ring bell and think, wow, I didn't win this match yet. Why would I let go?
I don't know. And it just makes them look stupid. So if they only did it once in a while, it was fine, but they do it in a lot of House of Torture matches. But this time they did the same thing back to Narita, where Narita had this thing on and Jacob Austin Young rang the bell, which I thought was at least a twist on the same old story. But ref bump, whiskey, low blow. This wasn't very good, and Narita beat O'Khan. Not a whole lot to say about that, but it was okay.
Yeah.
And Brad says he was so happy that Jay did that. No one has ever pulled that on House of Torture, and that's actually pretty great. I think that's why I enjoyed it, because somehow no one thought to do it before, which is another thing that, again, this House of Torture stuff is not what New Japan is good at. They're not, they make the referees look dumb and certainly weak. I mean, they often will stay down. Referees will stay down for 10 minutes off of bumps where I think if they trip over the curb going to pick up their mail, they would take a harder bump than some of these that they take in matches, yet somehow they're dead for 10 minutes laying outside the ring. It is.
I feel like I haven't said much about Narita, but the thing I like about him this tournament is they've allowed him to be a psychopath with the work rate.
Yeah, he has tried to wrestle, hasn't he? That's one thing he has.
And he comes off like a psychopath at the same time. So I'm like, okay, I can deal with this.
After that one, we had a sprint match. El Phantasmo and Drilla Maloney, and this was a very quick pace. They started hitting big moves immediately. The story, again, being Maloney's hot-headedness got in his way, but this felt like they just decided to do the last 5 minutes of the match. It started with a huge move and trying to hit big moves, and then it just said, like, well, we're just going to skip the first 10 minutes and we'll just do the last 5. It took 2 CR2s, a CR3, and a Thunder Kiss to beat him. And Maloney ended up staying at 8 points. Of course, Phantasmo already eliminated.
Yeah, both of these guys, we're getting to that tail end. Like, I feel like we are getting to title match setups and more of like what's happening with post G1 scenarios here. And it doesn't seem like that's the direction that they're going in. But these two, they were good with each other. And I know we're running a little bit long and we got one more thing to talk about. So I'm just happy moving on to Takagi and the main event.
Yeah, and this was another excellent match. I mean, Zack and Shingo know exactly what they're doing. They know how to work with each other. They've done it before. It's always great. This was as well. Excellent work from both men. Classic, strong style, main event match. And in the end, Zack got a roll-up on him, on Shingo, when Zack kicked out of Last of the Dragon. And he didn't just kick out of it. He kind of rolled through it and got the flash pin on Shingo that way. It worked because Zack knows how to do stuff like that. And Jeremy says, why is Zack losing so much as a champion? He's confused. Well, Zack started off losing his first 2 in the ring, one to Ren Narita, and then there was another one, I think, to who did he lose to in the second one? But the point being, he then had the forfeit against Gabe Kidd in there, and he's won out since. So he's won his last 4 consecutively. So they put the champ behind the 8 ball a little bit early, but now he's been going on a run and winning over and over again. And this one, he did get that win on Shingo Takagi. Terrific match. Very concise in his post-match comments. Didn't say a whole lot. Just kind of stayed focused and that, I'm going to win this whole thing. The only people in the whole block that are eliminated, El Phantasmo and Gabe Kidd. Everyone else still in it.
Yeah, Chris Samuelson put out a tweet saying that Great O'Khan and Shingo were statistically eliminated. And it might have been a little ahead of announcement, but I think we're in a direction where it was just presumptuous rather than, incorrect, really, in all honesty. So.
Well, they're both in positions where it pretty much takes a miracle, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's like they both have to win out. Other people have to lose. They're not masters of their own destiny, and there's too much heavy star power on that side to guarantee it completely.
All right, so let's take a look at what is coming up. Well, the scores in B block. 3 people have 10 points: Zack, Ren, and Takeshita. So Narita, Takeshita, Sabre, all on 10. Right behind them, on their heels, Shota Umino with 8, Yoshihashi 8, Great O'Khan and Drill Maloney both with 8. Gabe Kidd had to withdraw. El Phantasmo back at 6. Shingo Takagi at 6, but he has a path in. Phantasmo does not. Shingo, like you said, needs help and has to win out. And so let's look at what is coming up in the week ahead for the B block. We talked about the final night of A block action. That's coming up Sunday. But tomorrow, second to last night of B block, that's in Yokohama Budokan, so just a little bit south of a little ways south of Tokyo. And that one will feature Phantasmo and Yoshihashi, Zack against Drilla Maloney, and like Crash TV said, he's looking forward to Zack and Drilla with the Brit on Brit violence there. We will see Shingo versus Narita, and that's must win for Shingo. There's nothing he can do if he doesn't get these 2 points. And then he would have a tiebreaker on Narita if they both manage to finish on the same points at the end of the tournament. So this one could have a lot of impact on the final standings. Shota Umino against Konosuke Takeshita. It'll be interesting. And Great Khan gets the bye tomorrow.
Yeah, there's a lot of Shingo truthers out there. You know, there's a lot of people that really believe that like this guy, and you know, he got the Dominion main event. You know, he got that match with Goto at one point. I don't know. I don't remember if it was the Dominion main event, but he got his title shot. You know, and they got him put in a position that's strong. I just don't see Shingo Takagi at the top of the Wrestle Kingdom card. And I think that's just where I'm at on it. Like, we have too many younger talent, too many other wrestlers that they are focusing on. And he is one of 2 unaffiliated wrestlers in which the other one is getting the priority. He does not feel like the stable leader. He doesn't feel like the guy. So as much as we're, you know, I think it's more likely that Yuya Uemura has a dark horse chance of getting in to the G1 post block play than I think Shingo Takagi does.
Well, Wednesday, August 13th in Shizuoka is the final night of B block action. It's an interesting lineup for the last night. So Shota Umino and Great Khan.
Mm-hmm.
Yoshihashi against Zack Sabre Jr.
Mm-hmm.
Ren Narita versus Konosuke Takeshita. And then Shingo Takagi versus Drilla Maloney. And El Phantasmo has the bye on the last night of block action. He's already eliminated. So that's how that one's going to turn out. And we will find out who gets all the tiebreakers and slips in. I have no doubt the tiebreakers will be part of this story here. I don't think they're going to shake out in simply by points. They've kept everybody too close. There's going to be some tiebreakers coming into play.
Maybe not. You know, like I did that statistical G1 tracker, and there's some ways that it scores out where only like 3 people end up with the thing, and the tiebreak. Yeah, it could be. So before we reconvene here next Thursday, there will be the first round of the playoff matches before we do our next show. So on Thursday, August 14th, back at Korakuen Hall, it will be the second place finisher in the A block against the third place finisher in the B block, and the second place finisher in B versus the third place finisher in A. So of course, if you finish first, you get a bye past that round. You don't have to worry about that round on Thursday, August 14th. So when we come back here to do the show next week, we will both have finished up block play and eliminated the first 2 guys from the playoffs. That'll be what we were commenting on next week. So I'm going to put my neck out there and just say, when we started this whole G1 prediction, I said it was going to be Yoda, Zack Sabre Jr., and Takeshita in one, and it was going to be Yoda, Evil, and Finlay in the other. And I'm not going to lie, I feel really good about at least 5 of those making it, if not all of them at this point. The narratives and everything just seem to kind of line up for it.
Yeah, and when I began, I thought that Yota Tsuji was going to go in. I thought Finlay was going to go in. And I still feel pretty good about and Evil. Those are mine from Block A. Evil, Finlay, and Tsuji. Still feel pretty good about that. B, I'm a little less confident because I did pick Shingo to go through. Like you mentioned, he needs an awful lot of help there. But I did have Zack going through as the world champion and Takeshita going through. So I think I'm going to end up getting probably 5 out of 6, which ain't half bad. And I'm still thinking Tsuji, Takeshita in the finals. I just like that final.
That does seem to line up. The way that I did the tracker with the way that the points are, and if those guys make it, it ends up being Shota and Yoda in one block. It ends up being Takeshita and Finlay in another. And then Takeshita and Zack Sabre Jr., which, if you remember, Takeshita lost that match in the block play. So then Takeshita winning that match. In the other block, Evil would have the bye. Yota Tsuji would be facing Evil. And remember when we talked about in the very beginning of this tournament that they were going to run back Evil and Yota Tsuji at some point in the post-block play because of everything that they're doing in here? That is exactly what they're doing.
Okay. Well, we'll see how it plays out. And of course, we'll be right here to talk about it. Now, that is our G1 coverage from right here. But there was one more little thing from this past week here, wasn't there? Oh, can I mention one other thing real quick? And we will get to Tetsuya Naito shortly. One other thing. I just want to I want to give a brief shout out here, by the way, to Hartley Jackson. Might be the undercard MVP of this tournament. Hartley is teaming with Oiwa in preview tags one night and in Zach in preview tags the other night. He is amazing with the Young Lions, Jeremy. I just want to bring that up. In these tag matches, Jackson beats them without killing them, without burying them. He sells for them wonderfully. He doesn't do it immediately, but he gives them a lot. If you watch the way he is working with these Young Lions, he's making them all look so good before he beats them. And I just thought he deserved a little bit of credit right there, because his stuff where they tease and tease and tease the Young Lions getting that little upset victory finally, just chef's kiss on the way he's doing it. He's been fantastic this whole tournament with that stuff, and I really enjoy what he's doing.
Dap up the mighty O'Neil, my man. Dap him up.
I'm telling you, he's been fabulous. So now, Tetsuya Naito.
Tetsuya Naito.
So let's go over some of the things Tetsuya has said recently in interviews. And this is my favorite thing. If you could bring it up there. Yeah, there he is eating I guess he's eating a pizza and some sausage. And he's
a margarita.
Yeah, has a margarita. He's living his best life in there. Well, can you bring up the quotes here as to what he said in an interview recently? Who's this interview with?
It's Tokyo Sports with his favorite interviewer that he basically, every time he meets with them, he leaves him with the bill.
All right. He said, nice detail. I'm quoting this from Tokyo Sports. In our last interview, he revealed that he was planning to compete in several U.S. promotions in August. However, he explained the circumstances surrounding his return to Japan, saying, I was actually planning to go directly from the UK to the US, but it seems the US visas are extremely strict right now. That part is true. I wasn't able to get one this time, so I came back. With the situation in the US being uncertain, I feel like my next fight will probably be in Europe. He is scheduled to compete in Italy on the 15th, the 16th in Japan, and in Germany on the 17th, the 18th in Japan. You got that, Hulk Hogan? You see how that works? And he commented, at this point, Japan is definitely not an option for me. I am thinking about which country and promotion I should go to next, he said, munching on a margarita. Maybe so someone should probably tell him you should probably drink those and not munch on them.
Well, no, there's a margarita pizza.
Oh, margarita pizza. Yeah, is that what it is?
There's you get discs of mozzarella.
Yes. Okay, all right, I see what you're saying. Then he has just said probably not Japan. You know what that means, Jeremy? He's coming
Japan.
Back. He's coming back to Japan. The first thing you say when you're about to come back is, "I'm not coming back."
I'm not coming back.
Yeah. Now, this is something that we've talked about a lot off the show, Jeremy, is that this game of chicken, it's either, I don't particularly care whether it's a work or it's not with Naito. The result to me is the same. He's out for a little while and he's going to come back. The reason being, no one else can pay the guy. And so, they talk about maybe he
wants to pay him for what he can offer.
He can't. If he and New Japan couldn't come to terms and he actually did leave, and there are people who think that it's a work, but let's say it isn't. Let's just say he actually did leave. Noah can bring him in for big shows. Mm-hmm. They can bring him in for big shows, but they can't pay him what New Japan was paying him.
Right.
No one else can. DDT might be able to bring him in for a big show, but that only works once or twice. All Japan can't afford him, and neither can Dragon Gate or anybody else on that. His only spot is New Japan. So I always thought, even if he's a freelancer, they're going to bring him in for the Tokyo Dome. And I just laughed when I saw this as well. I'm definitely not going to have my next fight in Japan, which is the first thing you say after your next fight's in Japan. So Tetsuya Naito is going to be in New Japan again fairly soon, just because no one else can really afford him or want to hire him. And none of the North American companies don't want him at this point, not as an insult to him, but he's over 40 and he's broken down.
Every time he's been on AEW, he's worn a T-shirt and acted like he doesn't want to be there, and WWE is not interested. So it is what it is. I read this and my BS meter went off crazy, and you and I have talked about it. Other couple of people. Oh, first, I want to give some credit to the We Work Stiff podcast, because they have a Discord, and they have been on this, just kind of, investigating it. And I felt comfortable talking about it on here after, having conversations with them, because based off of the work that they've been doing, and go check them out. They got a podcast that drops every week. I think they'll go much more in depth into the work that they've been doing on there. But frankly speaking, Tanahashi's got a Wrestle Kingdom match, and he's going to have a singles match, and you can't just put any guy in the roster with him. Like, there's a short list of people that can do that match with him, and it's going to, draw a crowd for the Tokyo Dome, rather than just being a match where people are politely go because it's Tanahashi. And that's Okada, Nakamura, and Naito.
And, the other thing that fuels the speculation that this whole thing has been an elaborate work is the fact that he's working for who? Rev Pro, perhaps AEW in the US. We don't really know. He can always go back and do a guest spot with CMLL once in a while if he chooses to. All companies that New Japan works with anyway, right? He hasn't yet appeared or announced to appear for anybody that's not a strict New Japan ally. So that fuels that speculation. But I was saying, even if not, if New Japan didn't want to pay him what he wanted to do a mostly full-time schedule, then he's just going to do dinks and dunks. And there are only a couple of promotions that can afford him more than once or twice a year. And so he's coming back to New Japan. It's the only people that can pay him. End of story. Like there really isn't anybody else. And when you look at every time I see these attendance numbers, the leverage on Naito's side gets a little ratcheted up a notch or two, because they're not drawing well without him. They objectively are not. So he's probably just if he has actually left the company, he's probably just sitting back waiting for the phone to ring, and it's gonna ring.
Looking at it this way, and the optics, like, if Naito were on the New Japan roster full time, he wouldn't be having good matches, and we'd be criticizing it. Him being away ups his value. Him being away ups his health. Him being away ups the intensity of him possibly returning. There's no downside to him being away. And if this is to build for, like, oh, he's the guy coming back to put Tanahashi out of his misery, and, like, he's not even a part of the roster, but he's going to come back, and he's got a message for Tanahashi is like, you're not getting past me. Like, that's a build. Like, that's better than, a half-assed, story that you're doing in the middle of the G1 that's not even the main focus.
Yeah, I've already fantasy booked the idea of Tsuji winning the G1, then winning the world title, and Naito coming back to challenge him. As the Tokyo Dome. Just as I think that would be an interesting way to do it as well, if you have somebody else for Tanahashi. But
we're both on the same page here. He's coming back.
Oh, I think he'll be at the Tokyo Dome. They have to have him. He draws. Whether he can wrestle or not, he draws. And they need to draw. They can't have the crowd be smaller than last year. And with the numbers we've been seeing ever since Goto went out and Naito left, and there was a little bit where we're not totally sure if that was, that we already saw a little bit of a drop off even with Goto after Naito wasn't on the cards anymore. Mm-hmm. They can't go to the Tokyo Dome without that guy. They can't.
Nope, not at all.
They can't.
I'm with you.
Yeah, and Brad says it's an elaborate way of taking him out of the G1 without really saying he's missing the G1. Maybe it is. And Colin mentions
that no matter how you look at it. So, yeah.
And Brad mentions he did an interview where he said he wants to fight Okada and also fight alongside Okada against Omega and Ibushi. No, thank you on that one. Oh my God, how much heavy lifting can Kenny do? And then Crash is wondering if he'll show up at Forbidden Door or Rev Pro. Yeah, it does feel like a lot of these things are very New Japan ally centric.
I would very much like for Tanahashi's last match to be announced at Forbidden Door, because I feel like it's deserving of a big event to kind of, you need a big moment or a big match or a big event. And Tanahashi, I assume, is having a match with Shibata. He beats Shibata. And I don't know, Naito comes out and he says, hey, I'm coming for you at Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, maybe.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying it's Naito, but whoever it should be at a big show. It's like, are you going to do this at Power Struggle, or do you do it at Forbidden Door where, you're going to have the Japanese audience here for it either way. You want to get the entrants in the Western speaking world that they want to go there too.
What are you figuring, by the way? Bolton for Aaron Wolf?
Probably. It could be Evil.
Evil versus Aaron Wolf?
Yeah. Aaron Wolf just runs through him.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Evil's a work rate wrestler. He can. Like if you have Aaron Wolf go through Evil right from the get-go, you've established he's like a top guy and he's above this bullshit.
I don't know if that's a good idea yet.
I don't know either, but
he's got like 6 months of training. Yeah, I don't think is he going to be ready for that? I don't know. I don't know either.
Like,
I don't know.
But you need to have a statement match. You need to have it against a big guy. I wouldn't sacrifice any of the young guys for him. I would hold off on Bolton Oleg. I feel like that's something that you do 6 months down the line, like you kind of build Bolton Oleg and Aaron Wolf down the line of like, oh, these two guys, this is a collision. And then Aaron Wolf goes through him. Like, you spend a year really building up Aaron Wolf as like the guy if you're not pulling the trigger and making him the champion right away.
Well, let's see how good he is first. I mean, they've got a few months to figure out if he's going to be a good wrestler.
He is the next guy.
Well, hold on. He's the most famous guy, but they remember when they signed him, they barely even had him in for a wrestling lesson yet. Sure. So they don't know if he's any good or not. And Jeremy is saying
they are feeling real good about him.
Let's see. Jeremy asked, why wouldn't he work for AEW for now? Well, because the visa thing might be legit. It's not easy to get a visa into the United States right now. It is uncertain with stuff like that. What was it? Hikaru Shida was stuck in Japan for a long time trying to get a visa to come in. It's a little chaotic with that, with visas now. You don't really know how long it's going to take to get one, and so that can be tricky when you're trying to book a wrestling shows. You're not totally sure if you can actually get one to be there. So that would be the tripping point for working for AEW. And then Brad said he didn't see a clip from today's show, or didn't he see a clip from today's show of Aaron Wolf working as a young lion? He's been at some of the shows, mostly the ones in Tokyo, hanging around the ringside area like the rest of the Lions.
He's in the middle of the action just to be in the middle of the action, but he's not actively participating.
And again, he is more famous mainstream than most of the New Japan roster, which means a lot of people on the New Japan roster are going to want to get next to Aaron Wolf. So don't look too much into anything. Don't read too much into guys kind of getting in his face, because they do that with young lions anyway. But if Evil had an interaction with him, there are a lot of guys on that roster that want to get close to Aaron Wolf because it's mainstream publicity. And some guys are going to want to get in there. Like I said, New Japan isn't always thinking 20 steps ahead. I mean, sometimes there's going to be a guy that's just like, he's famous. Maybe I can get my picture to the paper and send, if I point at him and talk some trash to him. Right. Stuff like that's going to happen. So there we go.
All right. Another episode in the books, my man. I'm so proud of you.
Well, I'm glad to be back. It's fun to be back here and talking about this, and a lot more to go this week. I mean, we've got the 3 block shows to come, and then the playoffs. So 4 more shows to discuss when we come back. They are coming thick and fast. Thing is, once the G1 finals are over, we go all the way into the first week of September before we come up with Blue Justice. So we need to get this in now.
Are you excited to preview Forbidden Door, your favorite AEW crossover show?
No, you're just trying to hurt me.
I am.
No, I'm not looking forward to it. I never look forward to Forbidden Door.
I think you're coming on to recap it with us. You, me, and Garrett are going to recap
how
it.
I got roped into that. No, I can't leave the two of you alone.
Okay. Well, that's the spoiler alert. Come the weekend of Forbidden Door, Steven Conway is going to lift his AEW embargo and comment vociferously on the 1 or 2 New Japan matches that they throw onto that show as a throwaway add-on.
Well, and now I got to go rebudget everything, because all of a sudden my ESPN Plus is going to be merged into this new ESPN service. It's twice as expensive, so I can watch WrestleMania now, for God's sakes. There's all kinds of things going on now. We got to all readjust our budgets. We got to pay for this new over-the-top ESPN service, right?
Technology. I mean, at least with the ESPN thing, it can be budgeted with a bunch of other sports that I'm not currently watching because I don't pay the money for all these disparate. So at least I'm getting a major sports hub in once, and I can justify that I'm not directly giving WWE the money. So every time they do something terrible, I can just be mad at ESPN instead.
Yeah. No, fair enough. All right. So with that in mind, everybody, we're going to sign off for now. And next week, we'll be covering all the New Japan shows that come through, any other news that comes up. Thank you very much to all of you who joined us here live, all of you who listen to this later or watch it later on YouTube podcast. We're really grateful for your time. Thank you so much. We know you have a lot of choices. We're grateful you spend it with us. So for Jeremy Finestone, I'm Steven Conway. This has been Speaking of Strong Style, and we will talk to you again real soon.